Hello and welcome. I am Maestra Teacher and this is my 5th and 6th grade Oasis channel. I've been a teacher for more than 20 years and I've taught gen ed and bilingual classes as well. In today's video, I would like to share with you some strategies that you may use with students who are struggling or have not mastered yet their extended constructive response. If you are a new teacher or new to teaching, know that after 3rd grade, students will have to write an extended constructive response in their state test. This extended constructive response will be based on some sort of reading that they will do in their test. It's not any random theme like it used to be in the past. Now students will base their writing on their reading. And although this may sound simple, it is sometimes very difficult for a lot of the students to accomplish. It requires a lot of critical thinking, organizational skills. They need to know how to demonstrate essential ideas. They need to provide evidence, and it's worth about 10 points. I will share with you now some of the things I do in my classroom to help those struggling reader writers when they are doing their extended constructive response. The first thing I do when it comes to extended constructive responses is to explain to them what it is, why they have to do this, what is their purpose. You go with them on the first days of school and explain to them that just writing is as important as reading, and they go together at all times. Sometimes they will do some short constructive responses, simpler, easier, but at some point they will have to do the extended one. The way I do it in my class, we do usually short constructive responses 3 to 4 times a week. If then at least once a week or once every 2 weeks, I try to practice an extended constructive response since the beginning of the school year. The second thing that I like to do with the students who are struggling is to provide them with some sort of strategy or way that they could memorize and then use whenever they're doing their responses. A lot of teachers use the one called RAISE, as you can see right here, where they have to reinstate the question, they have to answer it, then they'll have to provide their evidence, and so on and so forth. This is a great one, especially if you have students who are already advanced, have done it before, so you just build on it. But what do you do with students who are basically non-readers? Because you will have students who are non-readers. They might not know any English language. They're newcomers from other countries, have never done writing like this before. So you have to come up with other sort of strategies to help those students out. The next thing I like to do with my students is to sit down with them and really observe previous extended constructive responses from the previous years and the scores that they got. Let's go over an example that I used with my students this past year. Here's the example. It's in Spanish, but I will explain it to you. This is what the reading part was for that constructive response. It was basically a reading about products that are produced in Texas and the benefits that each product brings to our state. And then the students, after reading, will have to explain, and their constructive response was that they have to choose which of the 3 products presented they thought was the best one or more positive for our state. So we were able to go over the different answers. This is an example of an answer that got a 5, and then we analyzed why it got the 5. We saw another example, and this one was about polar bears and how they survive in the Arctic. And then the question was that the student had to explain how they adapt there. It was quite simple. And then they had to, of course, demonstrate their evidence and so on. So we saw the different scores for this essay. Also, this was a 5th grade one. What represented a 0, they were able to see that they were very incomplete. We were able to see the scores of 2. What were they missing? Why would they have only a 2? And we also saw the rest of them a 4.1, and we saw the one that had 5 points. So they're able to physically see in concrete what they're looking for, what a good good answer, a 5-point answer looks like. It's not necessarily about having a lot of writing. It's more like really answering with the evidence, with the transition words, with no spelling mistakes, and to stay on topic. So in my opinion, students should visually see what each of the points look like. My third tip has to do with giving some of these struggling writers some sentence stems that they can begin using constantly and memorize so they are ready on the day of the test. So they know how to write correctly the parts of this extended constructive response. You teach them transition words. Maybe they can memorize some transitions words that they could use all the time. And of course, other students who are more advanced, you don't have to do this, but for students who are struggling, readers and writers, maybe the SPED students, the newcomers, if they can at least memorize some transition words and try to memorize your sentence stems and use them constantly, that they will remember them on the day of the test, that will at least give them some sort of points. Then of course, after they've done their writing, it's their time to revise and edit. This is a very important part of the test because students will be evaluated in their grammar, their spelling, punctuation. So you have to practice that, and that's something they have to master. Now, a lot of students that are, of course, non-readers, they don't know how to spell correctly. So you have to find a way to practice them with them some spelling. Maybe they can have a dictionary accessible. Maybe as they're writing their response, they can go to Google and Google how to spell a word, and they have to start memorizing what is the correct spelling for those words. Have them do extra practices, maybe a center with those words. You have to get the students to practice their spelling. My next tip has to do with typing. A lot of students, especially third graders and fourth graders, are really slow to type at this age. So you as a teacher have to provide time for students to practice their typing skills, because the day of the test at the end of the year is a time test. So they will not have all day to write an extended constructive response there with it. They can do it in paper first, so you can see it, you can correct it there, revise and edit. And then once it's been revised and edited, they can go ahead and type it there. You can use different platforms. My final statement is that you as a teacher you are responsible to inspire students to do writing, not only for the extended constructive response, not only because it's going to be tested, but because it's part of life. Writing is a wonderful activity. So I also encourage you not only to practice all the time writing in a mechanical way for constructive responses, but you also have some free writing, poetry writing, any kind of writing. Enjoy just the action of writing and expressing their feelings. Thank you so much for watching my video today. Tell me about your experience. What else can you share with me that you do in your classroom to help your struggling writers when it comes to extended constructive responses? Please like my video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. See you soon.